a video some of you may not have actually seen, but some of you might have, makes a claim that Democrats lost millions of registered voters and claims it's about a specific thing. They don't say a specific number. They don't say where they got the information from because, of course, citing your sources would mean we could fact check whether you're full of it. And they don't mention that that was between 2020 and 2024, and it's the New York Post, and it was 2.1 million registered voters by checking voter registration. If someone said something happened yesterday and they had 1 million people switch parties today, that would mean they'd have to have real-time access to people filling out a form that's on paper and having it processed at anything from a registration location that does speed scanning and AI in New York all the way down to the Ma and Pa outfit up the road in your local, wide spot in the road mini town with the county clerk typing it up and maybe sending it by fax or just putting it in the mail slot. Yeah, it was a lie. This was a lie. That's not what happened. It has nothing to do with a recent incident involving someone who's a somewhat famous or infamous influencer in one or other party. Every time you see this, you immediately state it's a lie. Is it based on 1 million posts on the internet in 2 days? Sure. Find a subject that had exactly the same thing. That would mean it went really viral. Were these TikTok vids with young girls dancing too? From 2021 to 2022 timings, all the way back to 2017, messages targeting members of Congress in 2022 were double that of 2017, but a drop of 22% since 2021. 7,500 messages in 2022, which I'm not sure if that seems high or low. US Marshals Service listing 1,300 threats and inappropriate communications, why are you being vague, sent to judges and court personnel in 2022, but this is the lowest level since 2015. It was down 70%. I said it before and I'll say it again, statistically speaking, you're in an extremely safe country if you're in the United States. You really are. Your likelihood of being, attacked by what a lot of you are afraid of, cartels is almost zero. Liberal and conservative people, or Republicans and Democrats, get death threats online. I get death threats. I'm not a politician. Random people will do this, and their political bias is not really something you can easily track if you can't track them down. But incidents of violence occurred and we caught them, people who fail to get away are overwhelmingly one side or another. If you wish to believe it's the side you don't like, I understand. But it's a side. I'm not talking about what you might be thinking. What are these people who are actually violent? These are individuals who have either decided they wish to be famous, which is actually a pretty good portion of them, who, when you take a good look at them, have either a mixed bag of political beliefs. They've switched parties a couple of times, they're not satisfied with one another, or they've never been in a party, or we get some that are dyed-in-the-wool hardcore one way or another. So they're either truly in the middle of the road or on the extremes. What about the normies, which represents 99% of the population? They're right in the middle there, off-center, as they say. Do these people do these threats and make them credible threats on a regular basis? Okay. Now, the reason I'm bringing that up is how many of these people feel strongly enough, the answer is very little, obviously, to change parties overnight, and how many of you really bought into the idea that someone had access to this real-time information where it's literally not possible to exist? 2-point-something million out of 50 million people voting that year. Let's just assume it's 50 million Republican, 50 million Democrat, we keep getting votes that are split so fine we have to complain about hanging chads. This last time we didn't have as much of that. We had a lot less of it. But then again, we also had a whole hell of a lot more election rigging by deciding not who votes, but who gets to be voted as a group, and who gets to count the votes by making sure that representatives and people, leaders within your state, are going to be a particular bias. The joke you hear on the internet from a lot of liberals is Republicans almost never win an election if it's a fair election. They always rig it because it's in their best interest to rig it. Unless you take away the right of the sitting person in your city, county, or state being able to decide how the votes are counted or how the districts are drawn up, unless you take that away from them, they're going to manipulate that. And when it happens, the majority of the time, not all, but like a 5-to-1 ratio, or much worse actually most years lately, it's Republicans doing it. Not to disenfranchise you or be evil, but so that they can keep from being removed from office. Absolute power corrupts absolutely. Minor amounts of power corrupts in a way that's petty. So why am I bringing this up? After a specific individual stopped existing in Utah, people began posting that they refused to mourn this person's loss. And now we have people talking about mandating a day of mourning where if you don't show that you're mourning the loss of this individual because he's been hailed as a literal hero for some reason by particular people, that you will be punished. Then it's not really mourning, is it? We've had people claim that they were going to go out and en masse attack everybody who is a liberal until they found out it was one of their own, and then they shut the hell up and started deleting their postings. Some of them called for that whoever did this, wink, wink, nudge, nudge, assuming it's a liberal, they should be, not get a trial, and they should just be subject to summary execution. And then, of course, someone found out it's one of them. And one of the politicians went out of their way to make a complete ass of herself by making statements to the effect of, well, we shouldn't be so quick to judge and all that, etc. As soon as you find out for the umpteenth time that a violent act was committed by someone who is absolutely best described as being part of your group, do you change your behavior? Every single time liberals find out that a mass shooter or bad guy is a flaming liberal, they criticize the shit out of them and even point out that they were liberals. Republicans seem to fucking hide this. Again, this goes all the way back to the Reagan era of do not criticize anybody who's a fellow Republican, as a way of stonewalling public opinion and gaslighting America. But back then it was just don't fight each other, don't backbite each other. And I think the direct quote at one point, not from him, but someone who worked with him, was, don't look like a Democrat, treat each other well, assume the best. We even have a politician who said, well, we should assume this person's going to find the glory of Christ and be forgiven by God after shooting Charlie Kirk. That's an actual thing a politician did. Only after that was found out to be one of their own. Before that, this individual overtly talked about just not having a trial, and for some reason, this is very common lately, eliminating jurisprudence and your right to a fair trial and habeas corpus, and just execute people without rule of law. The shit has hit the fan. If you run a party and have rhetoric that makes you sound like a bunch of lawless monsters that would be a caricature in a horror movie, don't blame us if we start building road warrior clothing, equipment, and guns and start taking you seriously. And on the next part, as far as the angry or violent rhetoric that's being complained about, these were individuals who are stating that they were not going to mourn his death, all the way to people saying they were glad he was gone. I understand that. A lot of people on the right actively said they were happy some politicians were murdered a while ago. Some of them have even decided that a person who tried to fight back the January 6th attackers who died deserved it. This is not the rhetoric you hear on the right, right? This isn't the rhetoric we hear from that. No, it's only the left doing it. And then when you really do look up where this rhetoric is coming from, it's almost exclusively on the right wing. Is that supposed to be that way? And the response, when you find statistically that any specific incident, you can find one group or another biased, and it keeps showing up Republican more often than not. Sometimes it is the Democrats or liberals. They just say that you faked the information. They never actually address the possibility that maybe, just maybe, at least on one or two subjects, that their side is much more passionate and is willing to make empty threats. But it's never an empty threat if a liberal does it. It's always a real threat. Even if the person just said, I won't mourn his passing, or I don't care. Politicians were saying, I don't care about the fact that one of the representatives or senators or whatever, actually I think it was two, were murdered, outright murdered, or relatives of theirs. No half staff anywhere, no Medal of Honor, just, we don't care. That's disgusting. And the response you get from people who do that crap is, they don't acknowledge you said it. They just act like it never happened. They make reality not happen by denying reality. And last part, yes, there's a bunch of liberals who said terrible things about Charlie after he passed. They said all sorts of things I won't repeat because honestly, they shouldn't be. But the worst thing they said, the one that people got mad at him for, was reposting his own statements and montages of what Charlie Kirk was really like as a person. Not out of context either. Full context. Charlie Kirk promoted horrible shit. So let's get back to, again, the claim that Democrats lost millions of voters because of this. That is a lie. Not a mistake, and no one on the right wing is going to acknowledge a lie. You have a president who literally says something, and then less than a minute later, last time I checked, says he didn't say it when he just did. Okay? And yet another heart-to-heart talk, not with the hardliners that are part of this gaslighting, borderline narcissist and sociopath and all the other words people throw around wrong, group of people who keep doing this. You guys really, really are fucking weird, okay? Republicans who pull this shit, you're weird. Not in the good way. Not Portland weird. You're alternate reality weird. Literally, you are alternate reality. For you, it's an alternate reality game. And for you, making up a fake story, fake news, and saying it's real and repeating it over and over again while going la 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 is not just copium. It's a fucking tactic. This is some fucked up shit. Anyway, I'm just to stop rambling here. But this communication is for anybody in the middle who really thinks that it's both sides. It fucking isn't. And you might want to check, if you're a Republican or leaning that way, what is it they really want? Is there some secret group in the background who keeps pulling the strings? So far, they've done everything except dress up in that Tom Cruise outfit for that one movie and show you a video of them at their weird orgy. I mean, oh, wait a minute, that would be Epstein. Oh, by the way, literally all the Republicans voting as a bloc have blocked us being able to get the Epstein files. So the only hope we have is somebody with a conscience is still working in the government where they can't get rid of them and replace them with the devil himself and actually release the files without any form of redaction. I don't even care. Even the victims don't even care. They're like, yeah, release the whole thing. Don't even redact anything. If that's a problem in releasing it, they're like, go ahead and do it. A lot of them are now doing that now. The shit should have been released so long ago that it just absolutely destroyed everybody. And no, I don't think it's going to be free of liberals. I don't care. And again, just like Hunter Biden, none of us liberals care if you take out all the bad guys who are liberal. We want all the bad guys gone. But that other side, your side, doesn't seem to want to get rid of your own bad guys. Maybe I'm wrong. I hope I am. But this communication is to people who are on the fence, not to the extremists on either end. And oddly enough, to the people who are right in the middle, might end up being the bad guys. Don't be. Thanks for watching. Have a good day. Good luck with that. We all need